Hello, welcome everybody to our second community discussion series. And welcome back to those of you who joined us for the first. We've got one of our presenters from that here, Andre, we're glad to see you, and Scott Helm as well. It is my pleasure to introduce our hosts today, Chandra Clark and Nicole Jacob Silvey. Chandra is a nonprofit executive with a passion for advocating for women and youth who are facing adverse circumstances. She's founded the lifestyle brand Be Loved to inspire those who seek emotional healing and restoration. Welcome, Chandra.
Thank you.
And we have Nicole Jacob Silvey, who is the president and founder of Connection Coach KC, where she draws on over 20 years of experience to connect people to their purpose and passion so that they can reach their full potential. In addition to her work as an executive coach, Nicole is a powerful consultant and speaker and has been named as one of the 50 most influential women in Kansas City. So welcome, Nicole.
Thank you, April.
Absolutely. Chandra and Nicole are engaged across the region in so many incredible ways. So I encourage you, if you haven't yet, to please read their bios and get to know them a little bit better. And they'll share their contact information with you at the end of the session so you can remain in touch. And they prepared an amazing session for us today, so we're so excited to get started. A few housekeeping notes before we do. We're recording this session, so if you want to leave your camera off, you can. But if you'd like to turn it on, we'd love to see you. Please leave your microphone muted during the presentation, but we'll have time for small group discussion later on. You can use the chat box for any questions or comments. I'll be monitoring that, and then we'll address questions at the end. If you need to duck out a little early, that's absolutely okay. We're just really glad that you could join us at the beginning of this session. And I'll go ahead and turn it over to Chandra and Nicole. Ladies, the Zoom room is all yours.
So hello, everyone. April, thank you for such a wonderful introduction. So again, my name is Chandra Clark. I'm so excited to be with all of you this afternoon. So in addition to founding the lifestyle brand Be Loved, I most recently assumed the role of executive director of a nonprofit organization that focuses on rare cancer, education, and advocacy to find a cure. And so I'm really passionate about our subject today when it comes to career fit and fulfillment, because it has been something that I've walked through personally. And I really believe that our ability to thrive as professionals is creating the space to have this discussion. So I look forward to working with all of you today and having this discussion and being able to engage in this discussion alongside of one of my most trusted friends and colleagues, Nicole Jacob Silvey, who's also played a pivotal role in my career journey. So at this time, I'd like to turn it over to Nicole.
Thank you so much, Chandra. Thank you again, April and Scott Helm, and also Andre Davis for allowing us this opportunity. As you know, the Bloch School has started these conversations, and I think they're so crucial. They're conversations that we may be having in pockets, but to bring those to the forefront, especially during this season, I think is crucial. And we're learning more from lived experience as well as personal narratives, and that's what this space will engage. So fit and fulfillment, we are talking about our career purpose, our challenges, and how to find that right fit. As Chandra mentioned, she and I are not only dear friends, but have been colleagues. And so we've walked alongside each other during this journey, and we want to share some tips and tools and also engage you in some conversation. The biggest challenge we have today is that we only have an hour. So we're going to move through some slides, and it's going to kind of skim the surface in some ways because this topic can go so deep, but we're looking forward to you joining us on this three-part series because hopefully this will lay the groundwork for the next two sessions to come. Thank you, April. You can go to the next slide. Thank you. April is our navigator. We so appreciate her. So our overview of our time today. So we feel that when you're talking about fit and fulfillment, we're talking about, in general, some key tips to find your way in your career. But first, we need to hear your story. And so we'll start with a self-reflection with your 6-word story. And then we're going to dust off that Psych 101 and remember Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Chandra has a really great way to walk you through applying that to your modern day career search. And then I'm going to speak about your fulfillment journey and how best to take those necessary steps. If you're not there yet, how to get there, and the journey along the way. And then we're going to end with some small group discussion because we want to hear from each of you and have you interact. I saw many familiar names and faces on the call and some people I've yet to meet. Love for you to interact and share some of your stories. And then we'll end with some questions and answers as we go into the closing for the day. Thank you. And April, you can go to the next slide. Thank you. Oh, there we go.
So as Nicole mentioned, we want to start off with self-reflection. So when we talk about career fit and fulfillment, everything really is about you. So it's basically you need to go deep into yourself to really identify what would be your ideal career fit and how you will find fulfillment in your career. So one of my favorite activities is the 6-word story, which was inspired by Ernest Hemingway. So we just want to take maybe about 3 minutes and ask you to take some time and describe your career journey in 6 words. So if we will have an opportunity to share out, but if you would just we'll take the next 3 minutes and describe your career journey in 6 words. And for those of you who haven't completed this activity before, your 6-word story is a bite-sized narrative. So it's very powerful. It's a unique way to convey your thoughts and emotions. So hopefully, if you haven't had an opportunity to do this activity before, it is something that will inspire you to continue to use it throughout different areas in your life. Okay, so that concludes our 3 minutes.
And April, if you can go to the next slide. Thank you. So here are some examples, and those of you who know me, I know you're going to chuckle because you know how long-winded I am, right? I can say that with all self-awareness. And so when I first heard about doing a 6-word story, I thought, how could we possibly convey any message in 6 words? I'm that one, when I have to do a bio, I can hardly get the word count appropriately. But here's some examples that come up, and as Chandra mentioned, that were inspired by Ernest Hemingway's 6-word memoir. In the center of it all, still searching for that silver lining. You can go to the next slide. I never believed this would happen. Together we can make change now. So these were 6-word stories that were just people conveying general thoughts and beliefs, but I was going to call on Chandra to share her 6-word story about her career journey, and then we'd love to hear from some of you in the audience because those 6 words can be so powerful. Chandra?
Thank you. So my 6-word story, when it relates to my career journey, would best be described as the road leading me to me. So for me, it's been all about growth and development, and it's all related to how I see myself. I realized that probably in my most recent career transition, that a barrier was my confidence and my belief in myself. So Nicole knows this. She would walk me through, Andre would too, a lot of conversations about the discomfort that I was feeling because I knew that it was time to make a change, but I was dealing with a lot of fear about, my capabilities, or would I be able to move on to something new with so much uncertainty. So as I've taken the time to do a lot of self-reflection, and I really apply the 6-word story in every area of my life, especially when I'm in a time of a major transition, it really has been about the road leading me to me. We all have something very powerful to offer the world. We all have unique journeys and unique stories, and we all have skill sets that we really can utilize to help our world thrive. And so it's been all about how I see myself and how I'm able to relate to the world through my vision of myself, which is something that is ever changing and ever evolving if I take the time to allow myself to reflect and move forward. So Nicole.
Thank you. That was so telling, and as you could tell by Chandra's 6 words, we got a true glimpse into what she was not only feeling, but what her journey looked like. Is there somebody else who would like to share theirs and share a little bit about the context? And I can't tell, Colette, are you raising your hand?
Mm-hmm.
Go right ahead if you are. I didn't want to call on you if you weren't.
Yeah, so it's hard to get it in 6 words, but
Right.
Mine was fundraising warrior for children of color.
Wow.
It's powerful.
Really powerful. Thank you. Anyone else want to share theirs? And that was spot on, Paulette.
Yeah, I'll share mine. Driven by my impact on others.
Wow.
Wow. That's spot on too.
Any others?
I'll jump in and go next. If I saw Andre, I was just curious how Andre would put anything in 6 words. So I was going to be quiet till I saw what he did.
Hey, welcome to the game. It's Marvin, everybody. It's going to go 2 hours now since Marvin's on the stage. So
He's my people. Andre and I are long-winded. That's okay.
I'm still trying to figure this out, but enjoying the journey and helping people.
Ooh.
Spot on, Marvin.
Anybody else? Love that, Marvin.
I'll share mine. This is Sherry. And first I came up with building on skills to open possibilities. And then I tweaked it a little bit and I said, building on skills to fuel my passion.
Ooh. Love it, Sherry. Powerful.
That's probably more than 6 words, but yeah.
Love it. Any others? These are wonderful.
Hi, my name is Liberty, and something I wrote was always researching, forever learning, sharing knowledge.
Wow. And Liberty, I haven't had a chance to meet you yet, but that gave me a true sense of your compass that guides you as you are going through your career journey. So thank you for that.
No, thank you.
Who else would like to share? Rachel, please. Thank you.
Oh, sorry. Mine was a winding road of self-exploration.
I relate to the winding. Really great. Well, what I encourage you to do is those 6 words, you put that together in 3 minutes. Chandra put that, that timer on, and what it allows us to do is go with our first thoughts, which are usually that compass, that internal thoughts that guide us. And so you may want to post that. You may want to put it on your laptop. You may want to write it somewhere where you can reflect on it, because we're going to speak a little bit later about your why, and I have a feeling your 6-word story is greatly connected to it. But as you can see, I love that opening activity that Chandra shared with us, because it allows us to get a lot of content out and a lot of our feelings and our guide in a very short and concise way. So thank you so much for continuing and participating in that with us. Can we go to the next slide, April? Chandra?
So in addition to the 6-word story that is Nicole mentioned is like a guiding compass. So again, you know, all of you are so talented, and there are many words that would describe your skill set, your passion, your journey, but there is something powerful about being able to compile that in 6 words and to really illustrate that and share that, and keeping that top of mind with yourself and others as you move forward. Another concept that is a profound part of your career journey is also understanding what your needs are. So today we wanted to just touch on Maslow's hierarchy of needs and how it relates to your career journey. So Maslow's hierarchy of needs is commonly described as self-actualization, which is really about your ability to problem solve, acceptance of facts, and your morality. The next part of that pillar is your self-esteem. So relating to your esteem, your self-esteem, your confidence, your respect of others, but also your respect of yourself. The next part on the pillar is love and belonging. So as humans, we all need acceptance. We all need to be loved and belong. And that is commonly found in our friendships and our families. And then the next part of the pillar is safety. So we all need to feel a source of security in order to really thrive and be fulfilled. And so that relates to care of our bodies, number 1, but also our ability to have employment, resources, health, and our families. And then lastly is the physiological part. And so that relates to food, water, and shelter. So I also took a little bit of time just to paraphrase you know, just to put in layman's terms, what does this mean? So when it comes to our physiological needs, we need to be in a suitable work environment. So we need to be in an environment where we also feel that we are comfortable and that we're capable. When it comes to our safety, we need to feel secure. So it's really important that we're in an environment that is really accepting of our gifts and inviting our gifts, and there's security that we can be in that safe space to really be our authentic selves, which also is a part of love and belonging. A lot of times I think there's been a common idea that we have to separate who we are when we go into the workplace, but we really are one person, and you know, who we are at work and who we are at home. Yes, you know, we have to put on different hats, but it's important that we're able to be who we really are. And so each of you deserve to be in an environment where you are accepted for who you are and you're accepted for your gifts, and again, being able to bring those to the table. And then the next part is esteem. You know, all of us, we may deal differently with affirmation. I'm a person who needs external affirmation, but I'm also a person who gives a lot of external affirmation. And I realize, you know, now emotional intelligence is a very popular topic, but before it became a popular topic, people who needed external validation and affirmation were often seen as needy, instead of understanding that it's actually a gift that we have, and it allows us to build up others, and that we can also build up ourselves. And then lastly, the self-actualization is just the opportunity for you to be in an environment where you can grow and develop in your career. Each of us deserve that opportunity, and sometimes there are parts. For example, my career journey has been a stepping stone. So each position that I've held has really led me to my next step. There are some people who may be in the same role or the same company for 30 years, but they've been able to grow within that environment. So it's just important that you are also in an environment or in the place in your career where you can grow and develop and have the opportunity to do so. So Nicole, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you, Chandra. So why does this all matter? What Chandra was saying is we show up as our whole selves. When we can be our authentic selves in the workplace, and all of these aspects of Maslow's hierarchy of needs play into that, then we're able to reach our full potential. I don't know if any of you can relate to this. If you've had a position where you've had a great title, you may have had a great work environment in terms of the physical building and facilities. You may even have had a wonderful salary, but you still felt as if you were unfulfilled. Sunday night, you had that dread. You didn't want to go into the office the next morning, or in this instance, jump on Zoom. We have felt that, and sometimes there's a guilt and a burden that can come to us that you feel like, why am I not happy? You know, and part of what we talked about when we were presenting this was, is it us or is it them? And so we often look internally and see how we can make the environment better. We feel this sense of dread, but at the same time, this sense of gratitude that right in this season you have a job, that you have the skills and you have that have been honored, that you got the job, that you're able to have the salary that maybe others don't. But what's so important is those same things that Maslow mentioned, that we are needed to be self-actualized in our lives, play out so often in work. Is it any wonder a third of our lives is spent working? When I saw that quote, I thought, really, is that true? Wow, when you think about probably 1/3 is spent sleeping, and that the average person will spend over 90,000 hours at work. So what does that mean? That means oftentimes what I hear my clients saying is they're spending more time with their colleagues than they are with their families, especially as we may live in different communities than our families. We see our colleagues every day, well, Monday through Friday often, and we may not see our family members for months. This is the place where we spend the majority of our time. And so to have that old adage that Chandra was saying about, leave part of yourself at home, or just work a job because it's just a job, just make your money and go home. Those are really challenging when they're in conflict with who our 6-word story says we are. So that's why it matters. And that's why I think many of you may have signed up for today, is how to find that fit that is going to make us fulfilled, because we spend the majority of our time there and it trickles into all aspects of our life. Next slide, please. April, I don't know if you could switch to the next slide. Thank you. So I love quotes. Quotes guide so much of my thinking and my coaching, and I see Chandra smiling because we have this in common, and Bloom is a part of her branding. But Bloom where you are planted is a quote that just resonates with me on so many levels. So you may be hearing a lot of the information we're saying today and saying, Chandra, Nicole, how can I find a new position? How can I do that now? Did you remember it's a pandemic? People are furloughed. Organizations and businesses are reducing force. That is real talk. So sometimes it's finding that fit and fulfillment where you are. And I know that is so challenging. And so we're going to speak a little bit about that journey, but bloom where you're planted means to find that compass, if it's your 6-word story or your why, and use that to guide you in your purpose and your day-to-day actions. Also, I'll be speaking some more about how to tap into those individuals that are around you that can help you to see that purpose out in your space where you are. We know there's environments that are toxic, and if we could snap our fingers and get to a new environment that's different, wouldn't that be wonderful? But we know the realities are that it is truly a journey. Next slide, April. Thank you. So when thinking about your personal roadmap, I am a coach, as April mentioned, and the majority of the time that I'm working with individuals, probably no surprise to you, they are in a job and they often have a leadership title. They're thought of well in the community, but something just seems off. They want something different. They say they want something more. And I start with step 1, which I encourage you to do. And these tasks or these prompts that I'm giving you, I'll have you do on your own in your spare time, just because we unfortunately don't have the time today. But identify your why. And you've probably heard this. Simon Sinek has talked about start with why. Many leaders have used that as a compass, but it truly is the reason you went there is the reason that will make you stay. So the why that led you to your job or your career, really thinking about what is your purpose beyond even work, just on this planet. What drives you to do the work you do? And so I heard strongly in Chandra's bio, she talked about empowering women and children and making sure that people have the opportunities that they're seeking. For me, it's helping people reach their potential, and that can be in any environment. So knowing that why, I go back to that at times of doubt and uncertainty. That is what grounds me. Step 2, leverage your network. And I really, I'm so glad that there's a person on this call today, because I often reference her. So leveraging your network, we often think, let's go, who's the VP? Who has the highest title? Who has the greatest influence by org chart? And really leveraging your network means look for leaders. And I believe in the concept of lead from any seat. So sometimes that leader absolutely is that CEO, that leader is that board chair, but that leader may have a different title that may not connotate the influence that they have on others' lives. I always reference in this call, and I won't say the person's name because I don't want to embarrass her, but I know she'll know who I'm speaking of. Her title may have said executive assistant, but she was my core person to network with, the leader that I looked to most to navigate a workspace that I was in that was challenging. And I think that is so crucial. Look for those leaders in your network who embody those attributes that you admire. So for me, it's an inclusive leader who likes to share power and is willing to recognize talent and cultivate that. That's important to me. And that individual might be a VP or they might be a program director, but leverage the network that you have. So often we think we have to add new people to our network. I say start with who you have and think of them in a new light. Who can they introduce you to? How can you learn about their journey? That's really key. Step 3, prioritize your key values. I can't think of a time when our core values have been more questioned than this season in our national landscape. People are talking about how we view humanity, not only in the workplace, but how it plays out in our political landscape. It's a time of deep reflection where we're looking at those core values and where they are guiding us, and only you can answer what those values are. For some, it may be valuing making a living for their family so they can leave a legacy of wealth. For someone else, their key value may be being able to honor people in their workspace and uplift those who may have marginalized backgrounds. Those key values, when you leverage and prioritize those and they drive your journey, you will reach fulfillment. I once had a coach, and to be a coach, you have to be coached, which is wonderful. I once had a coach who said, you can go in any environment as long as it answers your why. And she even posed to me that I could work for an accounting firm. Those of you who know that I may do all right in math, but that is not my love, may say, what? Nicole, an accounting firm? I didn't understand what she meant, but she described the type of leader that could be in that space and the values that leader could have, and said that I could work with that individual. And you know what? She was right. It challenged me to think of how my core values play out in the work I do. Then lastly, and this trickles into what it kind of overlaps with what I spoke about, identify leaders you admire. And so often what we do is we identify leaders solely by the awards they've received, by accolades, by budgets they oversee. Who are those leaders who are walking the talk? Who, if you saw them on a Saturday versus the boardroom on Monday, you're going to see a very similar person in the way that they treat, honor, and respect you. Identify those individuals for yourself, and they may be people that you kind of admire from afar and you watch their journey, or you may be able to have coffee with them. But instead of asking about what they're currently doing, the magic is asking about their journey, because often we see where they are today, and they didn't show up that way. There's much behind their story, their journey. And when you ask those key questions, you will find out that just like Rachel, it's been a winding road, right? None of us has it been a direct line from point A to point B, and therein lies the magic. When I've had the opportunity to sit down with leaders and ask those type of questions, I find that we're more alike than different, and there's a sense of shared experiences that help motivate and inspire me. Thank you. Next slide. So we've talked quite a bit. Chandra and I have shared, and time is going by so quickly. What we would love to do is we have 3 different prompts that we wanted you to take a deeper dive. And in the nature of these conversations, we know Kansas City is a small city. And so you saw that I was not using specific names or organizations. Please use your comfort in doing so. But we'd love to hear you share real experiences and scenarios. And the questions are prompted. So I'll just read this. Using the prompts, you're going to reflect on your current workplace and share your thoughts about how workplace culture, your career vision, and the leadership team impact your overall job satisfaction. I'll just add a caveat. It doesn't have to be your current work environment, but the totality of kind of your work experiences would be great. And then next slide, April. Thank you. There you go. And so these are the reflection questions, and you may want to snap a picture of these because we'll be going into small groups. What we want you to do is answer these questions, share out your stories, but also if it says, how does the workplace culture align with your core values? It might be that it doesn't. And so speak to that, and how maybe, what's your next steps in finding a place that will, or how can you bloom where you're planted, as I mentioned earlier. So in that, Chandra, how much time do we want to give them to do this so that we can get questions answered at the end?
Maybe about 12 minutes.
I think that
so that
sounds
would be 4 minutes each question.
That sounds great. That's perfect. And so what we'll have you do is April's going to split you into 2 groups. And then I think Chandra and I will pop in and out, and then we'll come back together as a group. And we'd love to hear from you and what things resonated with you, not only from these questions, but from the presentation today. Well, we had a really rich dialogue within our group, and there were some real commonalities, but I'm really interested in hearing from those who may want to report out from the different groups, so we can hear some of the reflections and comments that were shared during that time. Does anyone want to go first?
I'll go.
Thank you.
I thought Marvin, being the leader he would jump at that, but he didn't. So it's all good. We'll wait till next time. So I wasn't trying to be the facilitator, but I ended up being sort of the facilitator of our dialogue. And a lot of what we heard was people did want to go into a culture that fit kind of what their passions were. And then some folks were within larger organizations where the messaging of culture was prominent, but the actions of culture was missing. And then we had a discussion around, does culture and leadership intersect? And so we talked about that, and it absolutely does intersect, and it starts at the top and trickles down. You really can't have a great culture with the people that are doing the heavy lifting if leadership is not on board. There's a disconnect there. So I think that it has to come from the top of the organization, and it has to have a trust factor to it. I know the organizations I choose to work with, I'm sizing up culture more than I am the financial aspect of it, because at the end of the day, if the finances are in place, if the culture is horrible, it's a short-term thing. And the longevity is all in how you feel about the organization, the trust, the credibility, the character, et cetera. So that's what we talked about in our group.
Thank you so much, Andre. I always think of that quote, culture eats strategy for lunch. I know you've all heard that. And it thinks you could have the most beautiful mission written down, the most beautiful strategic plan, best facilities, even the best people working there. But if the culture of the organization does not reflect a positive environment and has toxicity as a part of it, you just see where organizations crumble and don't reach their goals at the same way they could, even if they have talent in the room. So that's really powerful. Thank you. Who else would like to share or build on that? Not crickets, please, no.
I don't mind jumping in. I always have something to say, but there's a culture of my workplace. I don't think when I got here, I can say it did not reflect my core values and what I wanted. But fortunately, because of my position, I was able to make changes and adjustments that I'm still doing that do align with my core values of helping other people, helping entrepreneurs get to the next level, etc. So it's a little bit different, but it didn't work. It wasn't when I first got here. And in my mind, I said, if I get this job, get this opportunity, I will make changes to make sure it does align, because I think what I'm aligning with is a good thing. So I had to make some changes and adjustments to the organization, the culture of the organization, to make it better aligned with what I thought was a better direction, and also align more with my core values.
Thank you, Marvin. Those pivots are crucial. When you were talking, you reminded me of when I worked in an environment, but the sense of having the freedom to fail was not there. It was produce, execute at all costs. And there was this, it was fear driven, that if you didn't meet the goals, that there could be consequences, and not just minimal consequences, but that your job could be on the line. And that really caused me to be less innovative, to be less risk-taking, to want to fall into the background, to just white knuckle it through and be good that way. But I had to pivot, and I had to change how my mindset was, and how I could navigate in that environment. It's because I love the mission and I love the work I was doing, but how the leadership tone was really detrimental to my overall growth and development. So I had to personally do some insight and pivot to be in that space. So thank you for reminding me that that's so powerful. Anyone else have something they want to share? Or Chandra, feel free to jump in.
I was muted. I want to jump in, but before we close out with Q&A, one important thing to highlight about this question is for those individuals that are in a time of a career transition, and so maybe you are currently not in the workplace, this is a critical time to really set the vision of what you want in your next workplace. So, you know, Nicole and I are really big proponents of vision work, and, you know, the term manifestation is used a lot, but it actually works. So we just highly encourage you to take the opportunity to, again, self-reflect, write out the things that you want, compensation. What do you want? How do you want to be compensated? How do you want to be recognized? It's also important to write out the title that you want. And also, what do you want your job duties to entail? Where do you see yourself in 1 year versus 5 years? And really start to put that picture together. And I'll share this really quickly. One thing I shared with our group was that exactly a year ago, I took a trip to Chicago, just needed a getaway, and actually wrote out exactly what I wanted in my next role, from compensation to title to job duties, and just where I saw myself moving forward in the future. And as I looked to this year, it was on August 31st that I actually resigned from my past role. And then by September 16th of this year, I moved into my new role, and everything that I wrote is exactly what I have in my new role. And again, it doesn't mean that, you know, there won't be new challenges, because there will be new challenges. There will be new opportunities for me to grow and develop, and transitions can always be uncomfortable. But I think the key here is that sometimes it's us giving ourselves permission to move forward, permission to have the things that we desire. So we have to make sure that we are not in our own way. And it's so important that you create that vision for yourself.
Phenomenal. I remember you writing that. I remember that trip and that journey, and to see where you are now is so exciting. Chandra reminded me, because of the time that we're in the question and answer portion, I'm going to have Chandra help lead this. But any other questions or anything that has risen, or thoughts or ideas, we'd love to open up the floor so that we can address those and have a dialogue.
So one of the things we really want to add about today is, again, today is about having a discussion. So it's actually just creating the space for you to engage and go on this journey, whether you're just starting or you haven't started, but you've thought about it. It's really important that at every point in your career, you take the time to reflect and really tap into the core of yourself with, does this align with who I am? Does this align with the vision that I have for my future? Sometimes it's overwhelming to think about even creating that vision for your future. But if there's nothing more that Nicole and I can stress, is that it really relates to self and self-care. And so in this time of COVID, we all owe it to ourselves to really take care of ourselves, mind, body, and spirit. And because your career plays such a pivotal part of your life, you owe it to yourself to take the time to really decide and think about if where you are right now aligns with your ideals in regards to fit and fulfillment.
Well said. And what we'll be doing, as we mentioned, since this is the first of the 3-part series, we'll be diving into some deeper topics like imposter syndrome, workplace bullying, some of the things that we know, even if you like your role, you like the work that you do, can impact your overall fulfillment or just your sense of belonging within a workspace. We didn't speak about that. Within our small group, someone mentioned they really felt a real sense of belonging and they've persisted in their job for multiple years. Those things matter. And how you can choose an environment that more mirrors what you're seeking, but also how you can persist in environments that may have those challenges. Also, there was that last slide with our contact information. I am a coach, and you know Chandra does Be Loved in addition to being an executive director. If there's things that we can do to assist you, if you have other questions you'd want to do one-on-one, I offer that type of coaching as well as small group. Feel free to reach out to us and also follow us on social media.